much as I would love for YouTube to be my full-time job, it is not. I do have a real one, and as part of that job, I often train people. And I train people on a number of different things. Now, one of those things is public speaking and how to speak magically. Obviously, I don't say how to speak magically at work. That would be ludicrous. But it is kind of essentially the same thing, and about how to convey your message in a really powerful way to your audience, in a way that isn't going to turn them off, isn't going to be monotonous, and feels comfortable for you. Number one, learn to breathe. And I know it seems like, well, that's an obvious thing to do, isn't it? You just... No, that's not how to breathe. Not when you're doing public speaking. Now, according to a survey of most terrifying things, public speaking came number one. Number two was dying. People would rather die than go up on stage and deliver a speech, or, dare I say it, release a video like this talking to a camera. So why is that? Well, I think it's because of the fear of ridicule and the fear of rejection and the fear of saying something stupid or putting yourself across in a way that you don't want to communicate. So learning to breathe is really essential for all of this sort of stuff, because it conveys a certain confidence. If you know how to just stand there and deliver something without getting all puffy and without getting all out of breath, because as soon as the nerves kick in, you hear this voice inside your head, breathe, 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 but they don't tell you how. So you end up just breathing in, and then you say something and then you think, okay, I really ought to breathe in. So you breathe in again, and then you say something else, and then you breathe in again, and then suddenly you just find yourself out of breath and you don't know why. And it's because you're full of all this air and you haven't breathed out. So when this advice comes in to breathe, 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 what they mean is breathe naturally, but they never really convey that. So my main technique that I would love to convey to you is to breathe out. I know it seems like a very simple thing, but you will forget when you're on stage. So if you're in front of a group of people, take a pause and breathe out. That leads me on to number two. Pause. I know it can be uncomfortable. I know that leaving silence in your speech is very uncomfortable. And especially on YouTube, you don't want to go leaving long periods of dead air. And often I actually cut out the breathing in order to make my videos a bit more punchy. So even me just pausing, taking a breath, and I cut that out deliberately because I don't want to make the video long and arduous to listen to. But when you're doing public speaking in front of people, it's really good to have a pause, because it allows people to keep up. It allows people to follow your train of thought. By pausing, you remove the ums, the ers, and all of the other non-verbal stuff that you don't really want within your speech. Some of the other non-verbal stuff that you might want to remove is basically, essentially, like that kind of thing. These are known as audio fillers, and it sort of gives your mind enough time. Do you notice what I just did there? I added the word sort of. Sort of is another way of giving your brain enough room without saying or or basically or any of these other fillers. It sort of gives your brain enough time to think through what you're going to say next. Instead of that, just pause. So I guess pausing could also be hold the silence. When you've made a point, and especially after you've made a very important point, you might want to cross the stage to address another area of the audience or something like that. Just hold the silence for an uncomfortable amount of time, perhaps. The thing is, when you're pausing, when you're giving silence to your audience, you're allowing them time to think through what you're saying, but also you're allowing yourself enough time to think about the next point and to add gravitas to what you're saying as well. Number three, use your hands. I don't just mean close like this and T-Rex it and do all this sort of thing, but actually use the whole space. The whole reason that you're here, the whole reason that you've got big arms, is so that you can reach out and grab ideas from all over the place and really communicate using your hands. And again, in another recent study, what we found is that people who use their hands convey the message much better to their audience. They were judged as much more communicative, much more authoritative. Thankfully, I'm one of these people who does use their hands a lot in their communication. But that doesn't mean that you want to go doing this all the time and look like you're trying to land a plane. It's really important to use your hands in a very succinct way. And if you notice what I did there is a very succinct way. I used my hands for each point. And again, this sort of drills through, I'm talking about this, and I'm talking about this, and I'm talking about that. So if you can communicate in multiple different ways, not only with your words, but also with your actions and with your hands, you should be a lot more communicative too. Number 4, do not be sing-song. And what I mean by that is the tone of your voice can convey a certain message. What I'd like is a very communicative, very authoritative tone of voice that says, this is what I've got to say to you, you are to listen to me and believe me. What I do not want is the sort of sing-song voice that you get if you're making a point and you're going up at the end of your sentence and there's another point to be had and another point to be had and another point to be had and never getting to the end, and even when you do get to the end, it doesn't actually go down at the end because you kind of keep on going with your points and they keep on linking together and you never actually get to the end and everyone's switched off by the end. It's called the question inflection, but also I don't necessarily think that the question inflection is really what is going on here. What I see is almost vocal linking. So you get to a point where even at the end of your point, you haven't made your point. You need to be able to get to a point where you stop, and that's with the downward inflection. So if you hear what I'm saying at the moment, you get to a point where you go up because I haven't quite finished, but then you come down to make your point. So you go up if you haven't quite finished your point, and then down when you have. And hopefully you heard that sort of thing, where it goes up and then down. A lot of people, especially if they're nervous, will say their point, and then say another point, and then maybe another point, and even when they do get to the end, they just remain neutral. They don't go down, they just stay flat, or even they go up. Now this really destroys any kind of authority, because again, research has found that those people lying will often inflect upwards. So they will ask the answer. Did you steal the butter? I don't know. Why would you steal butter? Did you steal that money? No, that's a question. And so it's called the question inflection. I don't necessarily think that's entirely the picture that we're trying to paint here. It's not necessarily about questioning, it's about linking. And what I would much prefer is to say, this is my point, and that's my point, and that's my point. And I've got all of these points, and you need to take each and every single one of them seriously. Number 5, don't be afraid of eye contact, but don't use too much. Various research figures have come out about how much eye contact is too much eye contact. And obviously I'm looking straight down the camera, which might feel a bit uncomfortable to you, especially if I'm staring at you straight on like this. But the other thing is that if you start to make eye contact with people and you make too much eye contact, that can be a problem. So what I tend to do, especially when I'm thinking through different things and grabbing ideas from different places, figuratively and literally by moving my hands, I might think through an idea and then I'll come straight to your eye line to make my point. That's really powerful. If you start going like this and then just go, so that's my point. It's not very communicative. Even if you're always here and then you're just about to make your point and you go off over here to finish it, because it doesn't feel the same. So try to make eye contact, but only when it's appropriate to do so. Now you can even do this with groups where you make each individual eye contact, and it doesn't have to be that you end on a particular person. You could make one part of the point over here and then maybe another point over here, and then another point over there, and finish with eye contact with somebody. Now I've got a whole load of stuff on persuasion and ethos, pathos and logos, and if you've seen any of that before, you will know what I'm talking about, and if not, there's a video up here to find out more. Now if you like this sort of thing and you want to see this sort of video before everybody else on this channel, you can become a member for £1.99 per month. All of the links are down in the description. Thanks ever so much for watching. I'll be back next time. Please like, subscribe, ding that bell, all of that sort of stuff. I'll be back with some more magical awesomeness. But until next time, as always,